There's rain in Brisbane, which means tea has been taken early. Australia leading by 275 runs. But where we've entered now is the most exciting part of a test match, because this is the time where one team is contemplating about declaration, the other is thinking what is that target that they'd be comfortable chasing. Tactics come into play, a lot of decision making comes into play, and also a lot of questions. So we're delighted to be joined by Akash Chopra, who's going to help us look at these tactics, help us answer all these questions. Akash, firstly, as I mentioned, 275, you think Australia would be comfortable with this?
See, they won't be too displeased, so to speak, because it is a good enough total. No team has ever chased that kind of total on that surface. Everything suggests that they have enough on the board. Of course, Indian fight back was based on two very young players, one in his debut, second of batting for the first time. And when your lower order is actually the opponent's lower order has contributed the most, you also fancy your chances a little more. Of course, that also means that resilience and resolve and all of that. But you also know for a fact that the top order hasn't really contributed as much. And so there are enough runs on the board, but then they need to win, right, to win the series. But then there is another thing that is brewing on the side. If they were to win it, great. If Australia were to lose it, then their World Test Championship ranking or qualification for the final will be in major jeopardy. So a draw is not that bad an outcome when you look at the bigger picture. But from a series point of view, Border Gavaskar Trophy point of view, Australia still has to do a lot of running, and therefore they'll be hating the weather if they're just thinking about today and tomorrow and just this trophy.
Oh, that's interesting, because you talk about the World Test Championship. Keeping that in mind, do you now think Australia then would come out to bat? Because as you talk about earlier, with the series in mind, you either go for a win or you don't mind losing. But with the World Test Championship in mind, you would want that draw, which means they might still come out to bat after tea.
See, won't be too surprised. For one, that reason, that is WTC final, you want to be there. Secondly, there is a Rohit Sharma, there is a Rishabh Pant. So once you've got these two kind of players in the opposition, of course, Rohit Sharma is. But the fact is, he may not have scored a century, but he's got runs in every single innings that he's played. So the last three innings, in the first innings here also, he looked very comfortable. Rishabh Pant played a fantastic knock in the second innings of the previous Test match. And these are two guys who can make like very short work of a middling total. It's not 340; it's still 275. So when you look at it from that point of view, of course, you want to put a few more runs on the board. History be damned. Don't care about it too much. But when you look at the history of the ground and the pitch and all of that, it seems enough. But with an eye on the WTC, won't be too surprised if they come out to bat, provided the rain actually stops. Otherwise, the weather in the end might have the bigger say.
How would India be feeling, Akash, at this moment? Would they have bargained for this at the start of this day, that they'd be happy anywhere, around 300 mark?
See, to dismiss them below that was always going to be ambitious. With this bowling attack, they were actually pretty well placed. You've got a slender lead, but added a few runs overnight, and two batsmen who were looking very good, and they were on the offensive. And once that's the case, you can only do, or you can only, we actually spoke about it yesterday, that going defensive may not be that bad an option. But that defensive option needs a lot of experience also. Otherwise, you end up leaking runs. And they were 100 in double quick time this morning. And then you started picking wickets one after the other, ended up taking four in the first session, picked up another couple in the second session already. So, or rather, a slightly curtailed second session, two or three actually. So, when you look at it from India's point of view, I think they'll be pleased. They have to stay in this contest. They have to just consume a lot of time, or don't leak a lot of runs where Australia now starts dictating terms, and they've managed to just achieve that much. Of course, the team is still not totally dismissed. Australia is still ahead. India still has to bat at in the fourth innings. Those things are never going to change. But India has maintained control, and they should be happy with what they've done so far.
You talk about India's defensive approach to begin the day with. Let's take a look at Australia's approach too. Looking at the way they came out, they were very quick off the blocks. Do you think they were playing for the weather? They had weather in mind? I mean, conventionally they say never play for the weather, but just looking at Australia's approach, somewhere at the back of their minds, they had rain in mind.
Maybe rain, maybe actually, Nikhil, this is the way we play. And this is the modern diktat when we talk about a lot of players. And they are also looking at maybe 340, 350 in mind and declare before, say, an hour to the end of day's play. Just keep weather aside, it's not coming. Just assume that there is no weather. So you still need 340 odd runs, keeping in mind what happened in the previous test match. So that approach was justified. And this is how Warner also plays. Marcus Harris actually looked good while he was there. And Steve Smith came out, stepped out the first ball, played the ball in the air, and that's not something that you would see with Steve Smith. Manas Labuschagne in that short little stay was also very aggressive. So they do have a target in mind. Now the fact is that they're too far away from that target because India kept taking wickets. If it were to be Warner and Smith batting, now they would have been 325 ahead. They're still 275. So the target they may have had in mind, they still haven't achieved it. And therefore, weather will once again decide how long will they bat. Will they declare at this point if we don't have any plate on day 4? Last session gets washed out like it happened the first day or the second day. It was the second day, I think. So if that is the case, then maybe declare overnight 275 last day to play. But if it is not the case, I won't be surprised if they come out to bat.
Okay, as you said, they've not reached the target that they may have aimed for at the start of the day. But the one thing that will give them heart is the way the pitch is behaving. We're finally beginning to see what you expect of a fourth day or a fifth day pitch. A lot of uneven bounce there.
Yes, a few balls actually just taking off, and that's a bit more disconcerting from a batsman's point of view, because that's something that you cannot do anything about. There is limitation with regards to how high you can take the bat. Of course, you can take the bat as low as you want. You can actually touch the ground, but there is a definite limitation how high you can take the bat without losing control, and it's quite unexpected. Going higher is tougher. Going lower is slightly easier in that respect from a batsman point of view, quite different for a fielder standing in slips. So this is the kind of surface now which will encourage the bowlers. But credit must also be given to the Indian bowlers that whenever they have bowled on this surface, whether it was day 1, day 2, now Indian bowlers have somehow found swing in the air, which was absolutely invisible, wasn't to be seen when Australians were bowling. And they've also found a little more from the surface. The first innings dismissal, some of them where I think Manas Labuschagne also got dismissed in slip in the first innings. Good ball. This time again, good ball. A lot of good balls have ended up taking Australia's top order wickets, the faster bowlers we're talking about. So Indian bowlers somehow have managed to get more purchase of this surface. Maybe they're hitting just the right lengths.
You're talking about the Indian bowlers, and we spoke about Pujara getting that unplayable delivery. But even to Labuschagne today from Siraj seemed just like that.
Yes, it was a good delivery. And he's produced quite a few in this game already. I remember David Warner first day. That was a wicket-taking delivery for sure. Pitch within line, within the stumps, moved away and then found the outside edge. You talk about Manas Labuschagne. That was a good delivery once again. Mean bouncers have dismissed a few, whether it's Tim Paine or Marcus Harris. We've seen Indian bowlers, this depleted Indian bowling setup coming up with the goods and how actually competing on equal terms with the likes of Hazelwood, Stark, and Cummins. All of us thought wasn't possible, but they've actually been right up there and have dealt in the same coins. So it's quite heartening to see that the third line Indian fast bowling attack is equally competent and efficient on these surfaces.
Just a word on Siraj because he's looked like the best Indian bowler on display in this particular test match. Playing just his third test match was given the added responsibility to shoulder the entire pace attack, the leader of the pack, and just doing all of that in just his third test match that he plays.
So see, this leader of the pack thing is something that you and I talk about. It's not that Siraj would have been told and Siraj would be actually feeling under pressure that now suddenly I am the boomer of the side. Of course not, because he also understands and realizes that it's only my third test match. I'm just enjoying playing test cricket for India. This is all that he's doing at this point in time and bringing his best skill set on the table. And that's all you can do as a bowler. He's a young guy, and a lot of credit I think should be also once again. Siraj has bowled well. Was slightly unfortunate in the first innings. Could have picked a few more. Here once again, he's hitting the deck hard. He's getting the ball to lift, even when it's not hitting the crack. So he's been there and thereabouts consistently. And two things. One, of course, the India structure, because they've primed him for this role. He's been shadowing the Indian team for a while, so all those wickets that he's taken while he was playing for India A is now holding him in good stead. And secondly, just appreciate, I think, what Ravi Shastri and company have been able to do from the first Test match to now, with all these youngsters just being thrown into the deep end. They've taught them, or they've encouraged them, they've given them enough self-belief that don't worry, you're not going to be, you will not sink, you will swim. And these guys have been swimming quite well. In that respect, a lot of credit should be given to just the whole team group, the team management, the people, that group that is keeping all the hopes alive for this young unit.
Okay, one is the encouragement from the outside, as you rightly point out, where it comes from the coach, the rest of the support staff. What about the encouragement that is coming from within the teammates? I'm taking the example of a Navdeep Saini. He bowls only 5 overs. You could almost say he's bowling on one leg. Just typifies what this Indian team is all about at the moment.
Yeah, they're warriors. It seems like they're gladiators. You'll have to actually take them out on a stretcher. Otherwise, they're not going to go. See, I was slightly circumspect whether he should be bowling. That's Navdeep Saini, because he's clearly in trouble. He's clearly in pain. He's not 100%. He's bowling 125 clicks. It's not enough. And India has 5 bowlers. See, if it were the case that India was reduced to only 3 bowlers and they had played only 4, you can understand. But now that you have 3 fast bowlers, even without Navdeep Saini, I thought you're just risking him for no rhyme or reason. You could do without him. But then kudos to him that he's still running in. He's still trying to do what best he can do within the limitations. And it just signifies what this team is all about. That they're not willing to take a backward step, and they're not willing to actually leave the field and go away just because they're injured. Injuries don't mean anything to them at the on this tour, and that's significant.
Okay, I'm going to stay on the Indian bowling. Let's talk about Washington Sundar now, who's burdened the majority of Indian bowling at the moment. What do you think he must have learned from this test match? As a batsman, we've all seen that he's quite capable with the bat, but as a bowler, what do you think he must have learned? We've seen that one variation that he has, the natural variation, the one that goes straight, is the one that's giving him wicket. But what else must he add to his repertoire to be successful in test cricket?
See, he'll have to change the pace of the ball quite a bit, because currently he's bowling at one pace which is slightly on the higher side, but that's his natural bowling speed, the optimum bowling pace. You don't to tickle too much with that, but you need to now find few more variations, which is don't expect him to bowl a dusra. Dusra cannot be bowled in these circumstances now. And I'm not even saying add the carom ball. You don't need it, at least not in Test match cricket. 9 out of 10 times you're fine without that, but you need to still keep upgrading your bowling software and hardware. So hardware would be where you bowl, and then very importantly, where you bowl, the lines that you bowl. Currently, whenever he's within the stumps, he's restrictive. He's quite effective. The moment he goes slightly outside of, he starts leaking a few runs. But that is not how it should be for an off spinner. So he will have to develop that line also. Come the Indian subcontinent pitches, where the ball is going to turn a lot more, offer a lot more, and then just vary pace. And that's where the varying the pace and knowing how to bowl, where to bowl, when to bowl, what ball is something that is your mental software. So that will keep upgrading. See, this kid has not played in a first class cricket. He's not bowled enough in first class cricket, this red ball cricket. So whatever we've seen of him, we've just seen promise, we have seen potential. He can bat, he can bowl. Now it's up to you how you can utilize him. And this innings, actually, this whole game might start putting him even for 50-over cricket. Currently, you saw him only as a 20-over specialist. But if you got these many skills, if you can bowl 20, 30 overs in a Test match, pick wickets, why can't you bowl 10 overs in a one-day game? So and if you can bat as good as he's been able to bat, and the kind of sixes that he can hit, if you can just become a bit more aggressive, those are the kind of players you want batting 5, 6, 7, 8. So I think he's just make a huge case for himself. Now it's up for the team management to make the most of it.
Right. Also, India definitely looking at all rounders in the one day format. You've got a fast bowling all rounder. You've got a left arm spinner as an all rounder, maybe an off spin all rounder as well, as Akash is talking about. Just staying with his test match performance of Washington Sundar. One go to method of any off spinner to get a wicket is, get that bounce, get the close in fielders involved. Many would wonder, Washington himself, a tall bloke for a spinner. Brisbane is a bouncy track. Why isn't he able to get that sort of bounce that we saw Ashwin get, for example?
See, length is critical. Length, and you should get a bit more bounce, but then length becomes a critical component. Where you're bowling. If you're a little too full, you're actually under the bat a bit more, and if you're a little too short, that bounce is nullified. In fact, batsman actually enjoys that extra bounce. So these are early days, and therefore those bat pads have not happened. He's not a great turner of the ball. See, that's another thing. Once you turn the ball well and as sharply at that, then that bounce that you get gets accentuated a little more. But in this case, since he's not a big turner of the ball, batsmen are also feeling a lot more confident and comfortable, and does not have the same kind of venom. So bounce is great, but bounce has to be assisted with some amount of turn and then guile. What he lacks at this point in time is guile, something that he will learn as he grows as a bowler. Let's not forget that he started as a batsman. So when you start as a batsman, the first thing that you can learn as a bowler is control, discipline. That holds you in good stead in T20, white ball cricket. But that's not something that is exceptionally appreciated in Test match cricket. So what he's done within his limitations is done exceedingly well. And the bounce that is not been to his aid thus far, he's getting it. It's just that it doesn't have the same kind of venom or bite.
And finally, Akash, where we find ourselves in the series at the moment. Australia's series is done as far as their batting is concerned. So the one experiment I wanted to take a look at was, getting Matthew Wade to be batting in that lower order. You started him off as a opener. You got him into the middle order. Now you've given him a few innings to perform there. You think this experiment might be over now for Australia going forward? Because it really hasn't come good with the bat there.
See, it looks like, but then you also have to see who's next in line. See, we don't follow Australian cricket that closely for us to comment with a lot of authority that who's breaking through the system, who's knocking down the door, who are the guys who are actually fighting for this spot. In the ideal world, you don't have two keepers in the side, right? But you do have now, because Wade is perhaps the best middle order batsman available in Australia. Just that he's a keeper shouldn't stop him from playing Test cricket or international cricket, and he's pretty good in short form cricket. But what you have seen of Matthew Wade, whether it's spin in Melbourne, whether it's spin in Sydney second innings, whether it's pace here, we have seen that it's not the same quality. It's not the same quality that we're used to seeing from Australian Test batsmen, pure batsmen. For a keeper to bat like that, like Payne could bat like that, Wade could bat like that if he were to be the keeper of the side. But if you're playing as a pure batsman, then you need to bring a little more. What you saw there, whatever 8 innings that we have seen, it just the lack of quality is something that comes through. It's not the lack of form, is what I feel.
All right, Akash, we'll leave it at that. Thanks so much for joining us. A quick reminder that Australia are leading by 275 runs at the moment, 242 for the loss of 7 wickets. And that was before rain stopped play on day 4. We still don't know whether we'll have the session after tea, but plenty of time for you to, meanwhile, check out the new ESPN Cricinfo app. It's got a lot of new features and it's much faster than the version that we had before. So do check that out.